All right, welcome back. We bolt things off with cricket on this Wednesday edition of the SportsMax Zone. West Indies women, without regular captain Hayley Matthews and fellow opener Kiana Joseph, surrendered their one-day international series to England after a heavy 143-run defeat in the second ODI in Leicester earlier on Wednesday. England now have an unassailable 2-0 lead in the three-match series. Now, like they did in the first ODI, the opening pair of Amy Jones and Tammy Beaumont shared in a 200-plus run partnership. Jones, with another player of the match effort, followed up her maiden international ton in the first ODI with an entertaining 98-ball 129, which included 24s. Beaumont also registered back-to-back centuries, her 12th in one-day internationals, 106 from 109 deliveries as the two shared in a 202-run opening stand. Emma Lamb, 55, and Sophia Dunkley, 31, also produced solid knocks as England piled up 366 for 6, the most runs ever conceded by the Caribbean women in ODIs. Alia Alain, 2 for 52, and Karishma Ramarak, 2 for 57, were the most successful Windies bowlers. Debutant Raleigh Grimman led the West Indies in an unconvincing pursuit, scoring 223 all out. Grimman hit 4 fours and 2 sixes in her 72-ball 53, while Janelia Glasgow, who blasted 9 fours, chipped in with 44 from 24 deliveries. Alice Capsey was the leading England bowler with 3 for 41. Now, it was a first series win for Nat Brunt as England captain. This is what she said following the contest. I thought everyone stuck to it as best as they could, really. We were more energetic in the field, and it was really pleasing. The bowlers are doing their best to impress and take wickets. It's important to see everyone have their go with the World Cup coming up. We want to see what we have. It's of great value. Everyone playing a lot of domestic cricket before this series. No reactions coming from the West Indies camp. Apparently, they were unavailable for a comment. Nikhil Uttamchandani is always available for a comment, though, and he joins us as we look back at this second one-day international between the West Indies and England women. 143 runs, the difference in today's contest. Nikhil Uttamchandani, was it as one-sided as the score suggests?
Yes, it was, Ricardo, but I'm not coming with the doom and gloom today. I thought this was a very good day for West Indies cricket, actually. And people will say, what is this guy talking about? They were hammered, and that's true, and that's fair. But, I mean, if we come and talk about the losses every single day, this show will turn into Doom Max. So I'm keeping it as Sports Max. And today I'm going to go through, a few reasons why I think West Indian fans of the women's team should be a bit optimistic. I thought 143 runs was a decent enough margin in terms of the gulf of experience between the two sides. And it was always going to be tough to chase that total without Hayley Matthews and Kiana Joseph. But again, to get to 223 and forget the score, the way that a few of the batters got their runs, I thought was impressive and shows signs of small improvements.
I want to speak specifically to Grimman. By the way, I am not as optimistic as you are, but you are right. There were some positives coming out of today's contest, and specifically Grimman for me. And the thing that impressed me most about her 53 was her ability to access different areas of the ground. She pulled really well through the onside. She drove well through the offside, both off the front foot and the back foot, and that was impressive for me. How about you?
Yeah, definitely the quick hands against the short ball. I mean, the short ball is something that you don't always see West Indian women playing well. And also against Lauren Fowler, who's the quickest bowler in the world, probably after Shabmin Ishmael. To see her take on her shorter deliveries, the ball to get to 50, she didn't hit a boundary, but even though it was sort of a duck pull, it was still good to see that she wasn't backing down from the fight. And look, I think the reason why I say it's a decent day for West Indies cricket is because when I look at the main standouts from today, it was obviously Grimman and it was Janelia Glasgow with her batting and power towards the end. And you look at the last two domestic tournaments, Grimman has been in the top 3 run scorers in the Caribbean. So it's good to see that, similar to what England are doing, where they've rewarded players that have performed well in those tournaments. It's good to see that someone has come up to that level and has been able to make that translation. Now, the question obviously will be, how can she continue and build on this as teams begin to get more data and intel on her and will start to figure out her weaknesses. But what I really enjoyed was that opening partnership, 37 from 40, just the intent between James and Grimond. I thought it was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, Zayda James getting 19 from 20 in that partnership. We've spoken so much on this show about the issues with the West Indies women's batting that maybe we've missed in the last few months, the issues that they've been having with the ball, especially in one-day international cricket and especially away from home. Regularly, India piled up scores of over 300. Now England, 346 and 366, a record. How concerned should we be about the quality of the bowling on display in this West Indies 50-over unit?
On a scale of 1 to 10, maybe 6.5 out of 10, I would say your concern level should be. Now, the reason I'm saying that, Ricardo, is because don't forget, Chanel Henry would bowl 10 of those overs today. DeAndre Dottin would bowl 10 of those overs today. Hayley Matthews would bowl 10 of those overs today. It's hard to judge a team that most of them, look at the bowling attack. Glasgow, Claxton, obviously Aline, Ramarat, and Fletcher are the more experienced ones. But it's just tough to expect from James, Claxton, and Janidia Glasgow to expect them to bowl 25 to 30 overs against this England attack and hold their own. Now, what I will say is the thing that I was disappointed by is just the lack of invention from the West Indies. Obviously, this is the second time now in 2 games where they haven't taken a wicket in the first 25 overs, which is a huge concern. But I thought today, given that the same thing was happening again, that we would see a bit more innovation from the West Indies and Shemaine Campbell as in her standing captaincy role. It was the same Zayda James and Sharianne Fraser bowling the new ball. We didn't see Ramarat till the 22nd over, and we didn't see Alia Alim till the 25th over. And I found that shocking, given in the first ODI she bowled 4 overs between 11 and 17 and went for just 16 runs. And I know that she's gone for runs in her power play bowling in T20 cricket. But what she showed us in Pakistan is that she has the ability to hold her length well. And when she gets it right, she can be a handful. So I think as one of the more experienced bowlers now, it's time that they give her a bit more responsibility. She only bowls 6 overs. Why is she not completing her spell?
Yeah, Nikhil, it's interesting, right? Because last time we spoke about the captaincy of Hayley Matthews. And given what you've just said, it was pretty much more of the same with Shemaine Campbell's captaincy. What does that tell you about this unit and about the plans that they have?
Probably that they sit down and plan like most teams would. But then when it comes to a captain on field using their instinct, maybe they're lacking. And again, it's tough for Campbell, who is just standing in. But the reason I don't really focus on the individuals captaining is because this team will have an identity. They would plan and have discussions about who they want to bowl certain overs and in certain areas. But again, I just wonder if there can be more flexibility, especially when we think about the fact that the West Indies are not in the next ODI World Cup. So why not use these matches to experiment a little bit? We're going to focus on West Indies heavily in this discussion, but I continue to look at England, for example. Charlotte Edwards is coming. Amy Jones moves to the top of the order for the first time in 6 years. 97 games without an ODI 100, and look, 200s in 2 games. I'm not saying you move someone or let someone bowl early and they take 7 wickets, but why not maybe try something, be a bit more inventive and brave and bold? Because you're losing anyway. Why not lose whilst being able to learn a bit more about your side?
But haven't they been doing that though, Nikhil, in terms of experimenting? Because as you mentioned before, like Ramara coming in a little bit later than usual, obviously they're trying to give others a chance in terms of them expressing themselves. So aren't they doing a bit of that and it's not quite working out in terms of the results?
I think they're experimenting with bat in hand, but I don't see enough with ball. This has been months, I think probably close to a year, that Karishma Ramara has been the center of the discussion on the SportsMax Zone about why she's never entered the attack earlier. And I understand that there were 2 right-handers batting at the crease today. She's an off-spinner, but this is someone that, one, is probably your best bowler in the last 24 months. But also she's shown the ability to bowl to both right and left-handers. And I would think if you're in a situation where 15 overs pass and you can't get a wicket, if I'm a captain, I'm thinking, right, who's my best bowler and who's giving me the best chance of getting a wicket? But they took a while to get to her. I understand they need her to bowl across the innings. But I think you can't worry about the 40th and 45th over in the 12th. You have to try and break the game open and get wickets earlier. So I think they've experimented with batting positions, but I haven't seen enough with ball in hand.
You know, it's the same thing that we were discussing in the men's game, right? In terms of keeping our best bowlers until the latter overs so they can make an impact possibly at the death. And I'm a little bit concerned because I'm wondering, okay, they may have a lot of discussions in the boardroom as they plan for the matches, both the men's and the women's side. But in terms of execution, you have to go with gut feeling from time to time, right?
Yeah, definitely. And again, it comes down to the captain's instinct on the field. And just as we have this discussion, I think about another example. Chanel Henry in T20 cricket. How many times have we seen her bowl her overs in the power play, sometimes bowl 3, and never get the ball again? Why? Because obviously her power play and new ball numbers are much better than she is outside of that phase. But I just think, how are you going to ever be able to learn and gain the experience of bowling outside of your strengths if you're not given the match experience? How is Aliyah Ali going to ever learn to become a new ball bowler? At some stage, she's going to have to take up the new ball for the West Indies. And I just think, why not this time? Why not these matches now? Use this as an opportunity to gain experience.
You know what? They went down by a lot, 143 runs. I am actually not sure if this is going to help them mentally or otherwise to lose that to an England team by that margin. So I'm finding a little bit difficult in highlighting the positives here. What are the other positives that you can take from this defeat to England in this series?
Just, I think, young players getting experience. We have to remember the age of a lot of these players, the experience, the number of matches played. This will be a massive step up compared to what they're used to playing in the Blaze and the Super 50 Cup. So I just think having, even if it's not on the field, just having these girls in this setup, an organized setup, a structured setup, I hope then that this then correlates into their personal development when they go back home. But I look at the small things like Grimman, like Janelia Glasgow with that 44 today, the way she powered the ball 360 degrees around the ground. I think she's becoming and molding into a budding all-rounder with her ability to swing the new ball. Think back to Bangladesh last year in St. Kitts, earlier this year actually, when she got through for 15. So look, I know it's hard to take positives when they've been trunks like this for 2 games, but we have to look big picture. I think if Grimman, Zeta James, Glasgow, Gajnabi are in the team for the next 5 years, what will they become when they're 25 and 26 and now entering their prime? Maybe these could be the next generation of West Indies stars to take them back to challenging for World Cups. But it's going to take commitment and it's going to take backing them for a number of years.
Yeah, Nikhil, I take the point about being encouraged by what we saw from a couple of the youngsters today. Really, Anna Grimman only turned 20 years old a couple of months ago, and Glasgow is 21 years old. So good that we see that kind of performance coming from them. But I want you to talk briefly about England's upturn. You referenced just now some of the changes that new coach Charlotte Edwards has made, and they are still ranked number 2 in the world. And based on a 5-game win streak that they're now on, probably creating some more distance between the 3rd-ranked India and the 4th-ranked New Zealand as they go in chase of the Aussies. But is there anything that you've seen from the England team as they appear to widen their gap on the West Indies that you can comment on? Charlotte Edwards' approach, her strategy, and maybe a new sort of focus in how to develop their own game?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Lance. Obviously, it's only been 2 series in the T20s and the ODIs, but one thing that strikes out at me is lack of complacency. I thought, watching the Ashes earlier this year where England didn't win a single game, I thought there were times there where they were in charge and in control, and they let the game slip. And against a team like Australia, you can't afford to let that happen. Now, there have been games in these 2 series as well where they've won comfortably, but what I enjoyed was that Nat Silverbrunt wasn't overly excited, wasn't overly happy because they were dropping catches and because they weren't at their best. I think back to, I think it was the 3rd T20I, where they put down a few catches and West Indies had a real chance to win that game. And you could sense the level of disappointment. And I think she's come in and raised the standard. Immediately she's come in and talked about the level of fitness needing to be high. I do think she's reset the domestic structure in terms of what they're looking for from players, and also reminding players of the importance of doing well domestically, and the fact that those players are then put into the international side and are doing well. I think that will only do a world of good for those players on the fringes. But again, I think just her level of professionalism that she'll bring to a setup. And honestly, I really believe the Ashes this year, where they were absolutely dominated, was a big wake-up call for English cricket. And I hope that West Indies not making the 50 over World Cup will be similar, especially when it comes to the changes that we need to make domestically.
Yeah. Do you think, Nikhil, there is a plus to someone like Charlotte Edwards, fresh from being an international player, being thrusted into a coaching role with players who she knows well and in a system and a culture that she's been a part of for several years?
Yes and no. I think no, because sometimes, from what I've heard, it's hard for those players to command the dressing room, given at times maybe you have personal risks with players and you don't have the respect as a player. But why I say yes, because I think understanding people is a huge aspect of coaching. And if you know the personnel in the dressing room, you don't have to come in like a Shane Dees or any other coach and learn them. I think that will go a long way. But why I think this Charlotte Edwards now and this team is playing so well is I think everyone knows what she's achieved around the world in the leagues and her record. And I almost feel like now there's a responsibility from the players to understand that, one, it's a huge boost to have her. She could have easily stayed the franchise route, much easier life. 4 weeks out of a year, you're coaching the IPL, you're coaching the 100, and that's it. So the fact that she's now dedicated her time, I think there's almost an onus not to let her down. But then the fact that she's had such a great track record, I think there's almost that buy-in from players where they know that obviously this formula and mantras worked. So let's buy in and maybe we will start to get the results. So it's a combination of many factors. But I mean, her record speaks for itself, man. And what she's been able to do in world cricket is unprecedented.
Yeah, very much the case. Nikhil, as usual, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I'm sure we'll chat again. The third one-day international will be on Saturday, so we're unlike to be speaking about the West Indies women until next week, Monday. Hopefully they can snatch a win.
No predictions for this.
In this series. We only predict the most important of events, Nikhil, so we wouldn't be asking you to make any predictions on this one. Take care.
I was thinking about your Johan Blake thing in 2011, but it 1 out of 8 chance. I mean, that's very easy to pick. I don't
very
think that was
easy.
that hard,
No, it's not 1 out of 8. First of all, Nikhil, at track and field major events, and especially back in 2011, they would have started with about 64 athletes. And then
you predicted from that stage. I thought it was just before the final.
Yes, it was. Okay. It was 2 weeks before the World Championship started.
Apologies for disrespecting your prediction quality.
Yes, please do apologize. When I made my prediction, Johan Blake was at 12-1 to win, and the next day he went 4-1 to win. I
think that's similar odds for RCB as well before that final. And I guess I predicted them right as well.
You believe this guy?
I think, Nikhil, what Ricardo isn't telling you as well, which may be a little bit over the head of some of our viewers based on their ability to remember things.
Are you saying Nikhil doesn't have an ability to remember things?
Roland speaking.
No. Well, he can tell me if he remembers, but the key here is that Usain Bolt was in the race. And typically, people don't pick people to beat Usain Bolt. So it makes Ricardo's prediction even that more impressive. Having said that, Usain Bolt false started in the race. So many people would say that's why Johan Blake won.
Yeah, but many people would also say that remember that they were training partners and maybe Usain Bolt false started for a reason.
And you were aware of that. That's what you're saying.
I'm aware of many things.
I was 10 years old at the time, so I.
You were what? 10 years old
at the time. Yes.
Okay.
So you hadn't yet started Harrison College?
No, I hadn't as yet. I was still in primary school when Johan Blake fulfilled Ricardo's prediction.
Oh boy.
He went to Harrison. Gerard went to Alexandria.
That's right. Yes.
Oh, so you went to the better school, Nikhil.
Come on. Come off this. Go to break.
Okay, let's go to break.
Come on, that's not even a question. Please. That's not even